Good morning. What up, Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson? Amy, a great man once said that Illinois isn't broken, it's fixed. Do you know who that was?
That was you.
Yes, that's correct.
That was your campaign slogan, right?
That was my campaign slogan.
I have that on my bumper sticker
Once
still.
upon a time.
Yeah.
Thank you for keeping the dream alive.
One thing the three of us have in common, I voted for you for governor, and I voted for Governor Bruce Rauner.
Well, there you go. And
so I'm 1 for 1.
And Governor Rauner, in my parlance, is trying to unfix state government. And it's tough sledding when you've got Mike Madigan and John Cullerton with supermajorities in the General Assembly. So let's check in and see how the governor thinks things are going. Governor Bruce Rauner joins us now. Governor Rauner, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy. How are you guys doing today?
Good. So let's start with this Senate Bill 1229, which I guess the Senate is going to take up tomorrow. You veto this legislation. It would effectively strip you of bargaining power when it comes to negotiating contracts with the public sector unions, the state employees, essentially, state employee union. Why is this such a bad bill? Why should people call their state legislators and tell them not to vote to override your veto?
Well, Dan, this bill is the single biggest piece of evidence, piece of proof that you are so right that the Illinois government is fixed. Basically, what this bill does is take away my ability to negotiate on behalf of the taxpayers of Illinois and turns over the new contract for AFSCME, the big state government union, turns that over into the hands of an unelected bureaucratic arbitrator who almost all of them have labor union backgrounds. So the system is rigged against taxpayers. And it shows how the General Assembly is in cahoots and working with the government insiders, the government union bosses, and it's rigged against taxpayers. It's an outrageous piece of legislation. I vetoed it as soon as the General Assembly passed it. They're going to bring it back and try to override my veto starting tomorrow in the Senate. And we're encouraging everybody around the state, call your state representative, call your state senator, tell them this bill 1229 is a terrible piece of legislation. Let the governor do his job. Let him negotiate on behalf of taxpayers to get a good deal, a fair deal for employees and taxpayers. Let the system work.
And just give us your sense of where that stands right now. I mean, is this going to be, obviously Democrats have supermajority, so is this going to be a close vote in terms of overriding your veto?
Yes, it is. It's going to be very difficult. A lot of the folks in the General Assembly are very close with AFSCME. They're very powerful. They have a lot of political money they've sprinkled around through campaign contributions, and there are a lot of folks who are afraid of AFSCME, and so they're ready to do AFSCME's bidding. This is the first time that we can find anywhere in American history where a labor union wants to take away collective bargaining. They've always fought for collective bargaining for years. And here they're saying, let's get rid of collective bargaining. Let's remove it. Let's turn it over to one of our friendly arbitrators who'll give us a better deal. I think they know, as a simple fact, I'm the first governor in Illinois history not to take any money from AFSCME in campaign contributions. All the governors have. All the governors have played footsie with them and sort of been on both sides. I'm there working for taxpayers. I'm going to get us a fair deal with employees and for taxpayers. They know that they don't have any real leverage on top of me from a campaign political point of view, and that worries them. They want to keep the advantage for themselves, so they want the whole process turned over to an unelected bureaucratic arbitrator, and that's just fundamentally wrong.
Are there any downstate Democrats that are going to support you?
You know what? We'll see. Where there's probably the bigger potential swing is not so much in the downstate Democrats, because many of them, are in districts where there's AFSCME members working in state facilities. The real issue is in the suburbs, and a lot of your listeners, a lot of your districts in the suburbs of Chicago, a lot of them, frankly, are not in areas where there are heavy state employee concentrations. And most importantly, they're in districts with brutally high taxes, high property taxes. And what we have always advocated is turn over these contracts with government employees. Let voters decide. Let elected officials decide what gets collectively bargained. Let the governor work with the government unions to get a fair deal. Don't tie the hands on collective bargaining to the insiders. Don't give the power to unelected bureaucrats. Give the voters the power. So your listeners and your districts in the suburbs of Chicago is where a lot of the key swing votes will be.
So the bill again, Senate Bill 1229, you call your local state rep, your local state senator, you tell them not to vote not to override the governor's veto. Don't go along with Madigan and Cullerton on this one. On the other issues, Governor, budget impasse, getting into the fall now. You have offered a bit of an olive branch, I guess, in terms of providing some relief for Chicago teachers' pension funds as a lever to try and get some concessions for your turnaround agenda from the General Assembly. You know, it's unanimous from the rating agencies, CPS junk status. Why help CPS get out of a mess that they've created and imposed on themselves?
Well, we're going to have to do some amount of compromise in order to get things done, and I've been willing to compromise all throughout. So far, Speaker Madigan has been completely unwilling to compromise. We've offered 6 pieces of legislation to try to get reform so we can grow our economy, so we can get more value for taxpayers, so we can reform our pensions. And so far, Speaker Madigan has refused to call a single one of our bills. Not one of the 6 bills has he been willing to call for a vote, but it's term limits or anything else. And, people say, he's criticized, say that the reforms are too extreme or they go too far, there's too much for us to take on. The reality is the General Assembly passed 530 bills this spring. It's amazing. And they wouldn't take up a single one of simple 6. And right now, our government we don't have a budget. We haven't had a budget since July 1st. And our government is on autopilot. Again, the system is rigged against taxpayers. The government is being run by court decree, by court order and consent decrees, because Blagojevich and some of the prior governors ran the government so badly. Judges have weighed in and have brought lawsuits and dictated certain terms in our Medicaid system, a lot of our social services agencies, and much of our government service. So we have to, under court order, continue to provide the services and continue to pay for them, even though we don't have any order, even though we don't have any budget. So as a result, we're going along. The government is being run at a very high cost level under court order rather than through good negotiation on budget and cost reduction. So at this point, what I've said to the General Assembly is, look, in the spirit of compromise, to actually get something done good for taxpayers, I'm willing to help the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago and its school system is teetering on bankruptcy. They've got the same problems as the state, only worse, with the power of the teachers union crushing the costs inside the schools. They're looking at a huge property tax hike coming if they don't get some reforms. And I've said to the schools in Chicago, the state will help you, empower you to get a control of your costs. But for you folks, Mr. Mayor in Chicago, help us get reforms that help the whole state. Let's do a two-way partnership to fix the state and the city, fix the finances so they're more affordable and more a balanced budget. So far, they've refused, but we pushed a bill yesterday, and we're trying to get the General Assembly to vote on it.
Yeah, but what if this doesn't work? Isn't it more cost-efficient to just file for bankruptcy for CPS?
Well, you know what? What's interesting is to Dan's comment about Illinois is fixed. Illinois is fixed in this regard. It's not. Illinois doesn't allow any municipalities or school districts to go bankrupt. It's illegal. We don't allow it. Many other states allow it as a way for governments to restructure their finances and change their contracts and change their pensions. And in Illinois, we don't allow it.
But you proposed that for Illinois.
We have proposed it. As one of our reforms, we've said, allow local governments that have no other option. They've exhausted every other option. Let them reorganize under Chapter 9 bankruptcy protection code. So in the end, the taxpayers and a huge tax hike isn't the only remedy. Other remedies of restructuring are available on the table for elected leaders.
So where does this budget impasse go? I mean, how does this resolve itself? Obviously, the state government can't be on autopilot in perpetuity. There's going to have to be a deal struck. Do you have any sense of where this goes and when it gets there?
Well, it's hard to say. We're in heated negotiations almost every day, our staff and the General Assembly staff. So far, Mayor Emanuel has been willing to compromise and has come up with some good ideas. But every time we get pretty far with working with the mayor, Speaker Madigan knocks him back and says no. President Cullerton over in the Senate has had some good ideas and has some good willingness to compromise. But again, Speaker Madigan has knocked him back and said no. The reality is, when do we get to the point where Speaker Madigan says enough is enough, and let's try to get something done that's constructive? I don't know the answer. It's my guess is it's somewhere in the next 30 to 60 days. That's my guess, just based upon a feel for the negotiations. But that's just a guess. All we can do is continue to run the government as well as we can with no budget. Try to cut costs wherever possible. Manage through this crisis. Continue to negotiate in good faith. But what the people of Illinois deserve is a restructured government with real reform, so it's working for them. What we should never do is only raise taxes, and Madigan wants a massive tax hike. We can't only raise taxes and get no reforms, or we'll continue to push people out of the state, crush our homeowners, our small business owners, damage our economy. We can't do that, and I'm trying to persuade Speaker Madigan to please compromise, get some real reforms that work for the people of Illinois.
I know you're in the crucible right now, but 6 months in, you probably haven't had a lot of time to sit back and wax philosophic. But coming from the outside into this political arena, now you were involved in civic pursuits and philanthropic pursuits, so you know kind of the landscape, but it's still different. Anything, or maybe a better way to say this, what has surprised you in your first 6 months as governor as compared to what you expected when you assumed the office?
It's a good question. I'll say two things. One, again, to your line about the system being fixed. The way the system is rigged inside against taxpayers, I knew it was bad. It's worse than I thought, and that's saying a lot. The other thing I'll say, I am so energized. I am so motivated. I feel so honored. I'm enjoying the process so much more than I thought it would, because it's a privilege to work, a privilege to fight for the people of Illinois and trying to get the government working for them again. So what we get is it's efficient, effective, transparent, and gets real value for taxpayers. It's a noble mission. I'm very pumped to do it, and we're going to continue the battle.
All right. Thank you so much.
One question, Governor, one question before we let you go. A political question, but we're in the season. Do you have a favorite for the Republican nomination for president at this stage?
There's a topic I don't go into. I've got 6 pretty close personal friends running for president, and I'm 6 of them having to go through a brutal primary together, and I completely stay out of it.
Okay. All right, Governor Rauner, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Eddie